Hey y'all, welcome. It's Leah and I am here with my first tutorial. I've done a couple of flip throughs, but this time I'm going to show you how to make something. So today we're going to be making these little shaker tags. So you can kind of see when you shake them, you can hear them, but they have some glitter and some sequins and different kinds of things in them. Okay, and so they move around and they're just a fun little element, kind of an interactive element to add to your journal. And they are so versatile. There are so many different things that you can do with them and ways that you can create them. And so I'm going to show you how to do that with really just some scraps. All of this was scraps that I had and a couple of printables or things that I just had laying around. So this one I really liked. I wanted to use this envelope actually that Cheryl had sent me some Happy Mail in, and so I loved the paper that she had made her envelope out of, and so I found a sticker, a coordinating sticker, and then I just backed that on a scrap of handmade paper. And so then I cut it out the way that I needed to, and then used my envelope to make my topper. For the tabs, I just used a 1-inch corner rounder to do my corners, and then added a little sentiment at the bottom, and then just a little bit of lace and some sari silk at the top. For this one, I used a digital printable, and that's what I'm going to be using today. And then I added just some lace at the top and the bottom, another little piece or a little sentiment here. For this one, I have this corner rounder punch, and so I was able to do my corners as well as using this oblong little oval to be able to insert my lace through and then just tie it with a little piece of string. That's a great little tip when you have like a wide piece of lace that you want to use. They make really great toppers, but sometimes it's kind of hard to tie them and it gets really bulky if you're going to tie it. So you just take a little piece of twine and wrap that around it to close it up. And so it just makes a nice little closure for that. This one was just some scraps I had left over from a journal I had made for my friend. And so this is just scrapbook paper on the back, and then scrapbook paper on the top, a little bit of lace here, another little larger little snowflake there, and then just simple ribbon. This one I just did my corners, cutting off one corner, flipping it over, and then making the other one match. So, all right, let's go ahead and get started. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am starting with the printable that I want to use, and I just found this on graphicsfairy.com, and so there are tons of free graphics there, and so you can just download what you want. And so I printed this out in a size that I thought would make a good size for a tag. When I cut it, I made sure that I left about 1/4 of an inch around the whole thing, because I want the majority of the image to show when I did that. And so I just did that with my paper trimmer. I found it really helpful if you just kind of guide it. When you have it up here, you can see this is your 1/4 mark. And so I just line up this edge with that 1/4 mark, and then that's where I knew how to cut. And then just did that for all 4 sides. One in there. Okay. So once you have your image, then that's ready to go. Then you can kind of figure out when you know the size of this, then you're going to scale everything to either be larger or smaller than that. So for your topper, you're going to you want to make sure that, so my backing page is 3 by 4.5, and I'll put the measurements below, and I'll also add those in so you can see in all how I scaled things up and down. So with that dimension, I need to take, for my top, I need it to be 1/4 of an inch larger widthways. So I'm going to cut that I cut that at 3 1/4. And then I need it to be 1 inch larger with the height. And so I made that to be 5.5. sorry, I think I said, so yes, this was 3 by 4.5. Yeah, so this is 3 1/4, and then this is 5 1/2. So I have that. And then what I did is I just took a piece of scrap, and this is going to be my opening. So, because you want to, you're going to use your acetate to figure out your opening on there. And so you need to cut that out of this top so that you can actually see your picture through it. And so what I did was I cut this. You want your hole to be 1/2 inch smaller than your background all the way around. So for this, in this case, we went 2.5 by 4. So we took our original 3 by 4.5 and made it 2.5 by 4. And so I'm just gonna lay this on here and just kind of eyeball where I think it would look good. And then I just draw my lines real quickly. You can do this on the front or the back. And then you can either use a craft knife you know, a self-healing mat. I am not very good with a craft knife. I never do very well with it. Or my paper trimmer. And so I'm just going to line up that bottom and you can kind of see where your handle is. That's where your blade is. And so you just make sure that's lined up with this line and then go to where it lines up with there. And then you'll do that on all 4 sides so that you end up with this. So that is going to be, actually this way, that's going to be your topper. So this is when you are going to decide how you want your top to look. So how do you want to do your corners? For this one, I'm just going to go ahead and do the 1 inch. This is just a 1 inch circle punch. And so I'm just kind of putting in that corner. And then you have 2 options. You can either freehand cut to make it match, or I just sort of eyeball it and put it back in because I know I know about how much I put in. So, because I kind of got that little right angle there. And it's not perfect, but it works. That's the whole thing. There are no rules with junk journaling, so things are not going to be perfect, and that is totally okay. So I've got that there. And then if you wanted to put, if you're going to have an opening on this to put some ribbon through, that's when you would do your punching to make sure that you have your space there. I'm going to do something a little bit different this time, I think. This is also the time that you are going to ink. So I'm going to get that. Make sure I'm inking all of my edges real quick. And I'm going to do the inside as well. That's the part that you really need to ink at this point, because you can really go back and do the edges, the outside edge, but you won't be able to get back into this part. Okay. And then when you kind of lay it over there, you're going to see where it's going to fit. If you have some white space sticking out, you might want to take your ink and kind of do the edge to cover up. It just depends on what you like and kind of what you want to see on that. Okay, so now we're ready to cut our acetate. For acetate, you can buy just the packs of them. So I get, like from scrapbook.com, I just get a sheet, pack like this that's got the acetate pages. But a really quick and cheap trick is to, when you get packaging from any of your scrapbook supplies, because we all buy them, save the pages, save the packaging, and you can cut out the acetate from there. Sometimes they even have, these are like ready-made shaker cards. So when you have these things, you can just make something that's going to cover this. You would have your little topper would go over that, and then this would be your shaker where you could put all of your your little fun sequins and dots and all of that stuff. So definitely hold on to these things. They're really great to use. Okay, and so we are going, so I cut my acetate to be the same size as my backing sheet. So whatever you're going to have in your background, just cut your acetate to be the same. So now we're going to glue that, and I just use my art glitter glue and make a little line about that around there. Make sure to cap that off. And then this part, you just kind of want to be a little careful to make sure you're not getting glue all on your acetate. So just going to glue that down. Okay. So now we've got our little window. So now we're going to take, you have some options of how you want to kind of build up. You have to build like a little dam around your page. And so I have some little foam strips. You can get these in these are 1/8 inch strips. You can also use the wide foam tape. You can get that just at Dollar Tree. And you can cut little strips. You can also, if you don't have any foam tape, you can cut up a little piece of cardboard and make little strips that way. You can layer up pieces of cardstock. So anything that you can just kind of make kind of a little raised edge is all you're looking for. And when you cut off those little strips, you want to hold on to those because you're going to need them to kind of fill in those gaps depending on how long your pieces of tape are or whatever you're using. Another one there. Just trim off my edges. We're almost to the part where we're going to put in our sequins. So you might think about, if you don't have any sequins or glitter or things, you can actually just make your own little confetti with hole punches. If you have different size hole punches, that's even better. But just cut up some scraps. If you have like some kind of metallic papers and stuff, that would work well. Any kinds of things. So I've done this a couple of times. So when I learned a lot when I was making my little samples earlier. It is easier to peel off your backing paper now than once your little inside is kind of full, because then you have a much easier chance of having glitter go everywhere. And as a teacher, I should really know better than to use glitter, but I like it. It's so pretty. But it definitely, I've had lots of glitter accidents in my classroom in the past. It is not fun. So, all right, so I've got a couple of different things. I have some sequins from here. I have these cute little hearts that are kind of like an iridescent color. I have some red glitter, and then I have some gold, like little, I don't know, there's just like little strips of whatever that stuff they make glitter out of. And so I just went ahead and mixed a little of that together. So I'm just going to pour that in. And there's not really a rule on you know, how full that has to be or anything. Just depends on what you like, your personal preference. So now, I'm going to lay this down, and you kind of want to use, I'm using that bottom left corner because you want to make sure that your tape is covered up. And I just realized that I did, there we go. Just gluing that down. All right, so now the shaker part is done, and so now we get to decorate. So what I am gonna do for this is I picked out a couple of different laces that I was going to try. I was thinking maybe something like that. I think I definitely want this at the bottom. I think that's too much. I don't know. And I also pulled some flowers, and I think I might just go with that up at the top and just make it with a little brad. Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do. All right, so I'm gonna use just some 3-in-1 glue. Anytime you use fabric, this is like really great stuff. It's kind of a silicone type glue. It dries clear and it holds really well. And so you just want to make sure you cap it right away because it will bubble up and out afterwards. So I'll let that dry for a second before I cut that. And then I am just going to punch. This flower doesn't have a punch in it, so I'm gonna punch a hole in there. And then I'm gonna kind of eyeball where my center is. Oh, and hope if I'm holding it the right way. So now I'm just gonna put my brad through my 2 layers of flowers. You could use buttons, you could use, like I said, you could use other ribbon or lace. You could use just a sheet of paper. You know, have some like scrapbook paper. Cut that little piece off. There we go. And I'm gonna call that good. I like it. You could definitely do more. You can do less. It is up to you. So like I said, these are super versatile, and it took me a little bit just to figure out the measurements, but once I figured that out, now I feel like I could make these, I can make really big ones, I could make really small ones, and just kind of do lots of different things. So there's lots of great ideas with that. So hopefully you enjoy them and you make some, and I can't wait to see what you do. Thanks. Bye.